Round 18 tips. I apologise, we're a day late, but let's go through round 17. I've got an 8 out of 9. I'm actually disappointed. Again, I keep trying to switch these 50-50 games to get like a nice tip that, goes against majority of the tippers that will kind of spin me around, but they end up losing. Other than that, I got every single game right, as I'm sure everyone did. There's not much really here to go through it. There's not much to brag about. Adelaide nearly did lose, though. That was almost funny. But there was some umpire controversy against Adelaide once again, which just always seems to happen. But anyway, let's get into the first game of the round. It is Carlton and Brisbane at Marvel. And hey, Corey, who's winning, Carlton or Brisbane? Not Carlton, exactly. Even he knows footy. He's never watched it in his life. That's a lie, he has, but he doesn't watch footy. But yes, I'm with him on this one. I am going Brisbane. There's not much to talk about here. The finals race is basically over. It is between the top 9 now. There are 3 games that separate 9th and 10th. That's insane. You're not coming back from that deficit. Even if you win every single game, you won't get in. I promise you. And Sydney really only just kept their chances alive statistically. But they're not going to make it. I can promise you that. But yeah, Brisbane will demolish Carlton here. I don't think it'll even relatively be close. I've gone the Blue. I've not gone the Blues. I've gone the Lions. And I'm tipping them by 42 points. A clean 7-goal margin. I don't think Brisbane will thump them, especially as it is at Marvel. But yeah, Carlton will get absolutely ratted on for another week. So yeah, I'm going Carlton. I'm at Brisbane. Friday night footy, Gold Coast, Collingwood. This is going to be a banger of a game. But Gold Coast can't beat good sides. I mean, I don't know their record against, the top 8 or the top 9. I did see an interesting post. I think they do have 2 or 3 wins, but they've all camped their wins in this particular stadium or at Darwin. 2 of their wins were against Hawthorn and the Bulldogs, barely, in absolute scorching conditions that most definitely favoured them. And of course, the Dogs were without Sam Darcy, and Hawthorn were without a number of their players, including a top 5 key forward in the league in Jack Gunston, Lloyd Meek. Deer had only just come back, made no impact, had no Lewis, no Day. There was a lot of outs for the Hawks on that particular day. But at the end of the day, Gold Coast did pick up the win. But this is a different animal. You've got the best team in the league by far. It's not even close. They sit 10 points clear at the top of the ladder. They've won their last, I don't know when their last loss was Geelong in round, 6 or 7? Collingwood are going nuts. I think they'll win this. They'll win it by 18 points. But yeah, Gold Coast will put up a fight, but fall short again to another top contender. And, Collingwood, sure, they rarely travel away, but when they do, they're very healthy. The Doggies take on Adelaide. I'm not messing around in my tips anymore. I will be going with majority of the tippers as well on this game. You've got 2 of the 3 highest scorers in the league this season. Of course, the Dogs being the 3rd highest in the league, Adelaide being the highest. The Dogs being the highest, Adelaide being the 3rd highest. Muffling up my words a lot. Nervous week coming for the Hawks. A nervous end of the season, really, for the Hawks will determine whether they even get in or not. But yeah, I am going to go the Dogs. Although both teams are in flying form, Adelaide have won 4 of their last 5. Obviously, they had that loss in the middle to the Hawks. But the Dogs, after losing to the Hawks, and sure, can't beat top contending sides, but we're yet to see what them versing top contending sides with Sam Darcy looks like. Ugelhagen also might be making a return. I think this team could be a lock for top 4 even, and Brisbane could most definitely slide out, because as much as Brisbane are second, they're tied on wins with all of the top 5 currently. So, their 2 points is keeping them in that top 4. They have the 2nd worst percentage in the top 8 behind GWS. And quite, far the worst percentage as well. And then it's Hawthorn. But, the Dogs have won their last 4. They battered the Saints. They battered the Tigers. They beat Sydney away at the SCG. And they've been good, Sydney. They've got all their folks back. And they just had an impressive win against Fremantle there. So there's no reason why that's not a good win for the Dogs to have. And then, obviously, they battered North last week by, 49 points or whatever the hell it was. So, I am going to go the Dogs here. I think they're going to show up, especially at Marvel Stadium. and they're going to beat a top contender, and I'm going the Dogs by 17 points, because these guys score so high that, although in terms of the game it will seem close, 17 points will be close. It's like the Geelong game where they still won by 13 or 14, whatever it was, but it was still a close game despite that scoreline. But give me the Dogs. GWS Geelong. Now, this is the round with a lot of top contending games, and this one's a great one. GWS have had Geelong's number at GMHBA, whereas, at Angie or at Giants home, it's actually the other way around. Geelong have won, they won the last time they played there. They've actually got a very good record away to the Giants. And, I was really tossed up. I was thinking about going the Giants as I tipped them last time to beat Geelong when no one really expected it to happen. Geelong just had a really good bounce back win against Richmond. Now, I know it's only Richmond, but you can only beat what's in front of you, and they've got one of the easiest runs, and I just think they're going to win, 8 in a row heading into finals. And with Bailey Smith, Sam De Koning, as well as Tyson Stengel returning for this game. Now, I know Hogan will likely be back, but, those three names, I will say, would outpower Jesse Hogan. I'm going to go Geelong, and I'm going to go Geelong by 14 points at Angie. It's going to be a hell of a game, and it's really going to shape up that top 8 battle between GWS, Fremantle, Gold Coast, the Dogs, the Hawks, all of those teams that can very quickly get dragged out of the 8, but I think your top 4 is safe. It's crazy to say that from here, Brisbane can miss finals. They very well could. I mean, if they lose a game, every other team that I just said, now I know it's not possible because these teams play each other and stuff, but let's just, say a 9v9 round happened. If Brisbane lost and every single team below them won, they'd be pushed down to 6, which is absolutely insane. And again, it's a draw that keeps them at 6th place. They don't have that draw and they lose that game to North, they'd be pushed just about out of the 8. They'd be sitting 8th place, in fact. And that's just with one game the difference. So it's crazy. And Brisbane have a really tough fixture, so they could get dragged down just as easily. But I think Collingwood, Adelaide, Geelong are your locks, most definitely, for not only the top 8, but probably the top 4. But yeah, give me the Catters with this one. Richmond, Essendon. Now, I don't know why it's favouriting Essendon so much. Now, I get Richmond have been battered in their last 9 games or whatever it is now. But Essendon haven't been much better. They've also lost their last, 5 or 6. So, there's not much to go off. And their injury crisis just gets worse and worse. They somehow lost to the bye by picking up 3 injuries. And I would not write this down as a guarantee for them whatsoever. I think it's going to be 2 young and injury-prone sides because Richmond did also lose Lawler. But, the stack of injuries on Essendon is really going to even this matchup up. But ultimately, I will be going Essendon. I just don't see a world where Richmond will win another game this year. Although, to be fair, we all said they wouldn't win a game this entire year just outright. So, but yeah, I just don't see a Richmond winning a game, as I said. And I think, Essendon are due a win. They are due a win, and I think it will be here. I'm going Essendon. I'm going 22 points. But yeah, they're just they'll move above Carlton after this win as well, which is absolutely insane. With how poor Carlton have been this year. But anyway, give me the Dons in a game that really doesn't mean much. One of the games of the round, it's going to be a more defensive-sided game, I reckon. But yeah, you've got Fremantle, Hawthorn, Optus Stadium. Hawthorn have an awful record. I think we've won 1 of our last 6 against Fremantle. Maybe even our last 7. The head-to-head against Fremantle is very poor, and our only win was last year in Tassie, which was a very impressive win, by 13 points. And, we're versing them literally 2 days of what we versed them last year, so yeah, hopefully that's something. I will be missing this game due to work, and an interesting stat is me missing Hawthorn games due to work. We're actually 3-0 record. Usually I never miss games due to work, and I've always been lucky with that. But that's usually because I had Sundays off, and we'd always have a Sunday time slot, because obviously we were, completely dog shit. And if we were on the Saturday, and because I worked night times, would be at like that 120 or 145 time slot. So I'd watch the game before even getting um, or leaving for work. Anyways, but yeah, this is going to be a tough game. Fremantle obviously just came off a tough loss after, winning 6 straight. They lost at the SCG, whereas the Hawks, after a tough loss, have now won their last 4 against some pretty decent sides. Obviously, the Dogs and Adelaide being 2 of them. They battered the shit out of North and looked really good. But then last week took a step back. And again, I don't know if it's with Sicily coming in or, what the pinpoint issue is. But, St Kilda had every right to win that game. And because of their own, efficiency, they just didn't capitalise. But other than that, the scoring shots were the same. We were just more accurate. And 20 points doesn't really tell the story. We were pretty poor against a really poor St Kilda side who have now lost their last 4. And again, as I said, they've won 2 of their last 12 now with that loss to the Hawks. That's not a good enough performance to be putting up against a bottom 4 side. And when you've got a versus contender with likely no changes, again, Sicily didn't play awfully whatsoever, but the more tools we add to that back line, the harder it gets for us to move the ball around. And we are so dominant with transition, with ball movement, as dangerous as we had it last year. And adding tools is just simply not going to help. I didn't get a good peek of the St Kilda game. I won't lie to you. But, yeah, judging by what I was saying, we do have the better form heading into this. Mitch Lewis will not be coming back, I can promise you for that. Kaushadere maybe comes in for Ramsden, but Ramsden didn't play bad before getting subbed off, so I'm not exactly sure why he was subbed off or why he should get dropped. I think it's extremely harsh, despite how good Lewis and Deer are playing in the 2s. And other than that, I don't think any changes will get made. Again, you're definitely not bringing Jack Scrimshaw in for, Seamus Mitchell. Is he the better player? Yes, but you're adding another tall type of player into the back line, which is exactly why we've been, struggling so much this season. But yeah, other than that, still no Weddle. That one's going to be a big loss. Will Day's still 2 to 4 weeks away. And I'm going to go Fremantle for this game, and I'm actually going to tip Fremantle by 20 points. I think at a stadium we struggle at, against a team that, usually gets the better of us, I do think we will drop this game. And Fremantle, obviously sitting out of the 8, they don't want to drop 2 games in a row because, if GWS do upset the Cats and, the results go the way I've tipped them, other than the GWS game, of course, other than Gold Coast, teams will be a win clear of them, a win and percentage clear of them. But then Gold Coast have a game in hand, and that game in hand's a free win against Essendon, who they just beat. And the second time around it'll be in Gold Coast. So I'm going to go Fremantle. I think they will play better. I think, at home they'll have the crowd, and I think, Hawthorn will probably they'll drop down just a place if they're lucky. So I'm gonna go to the Dockers. Melbourne, North again. North battered them the last time they played, and I don't know why the percentage is so close. I know North Melbourne have been horrendous. They've lost 3 of their last 4. They've been battered in their last 2. But Melbourne haven't been any better. They've lost their last 5. I mean, they were competitive against Collingwood, sure. Kind of competitive against, Port in Adelaide. They were very competitive in their last 2 weeks, to be fair, against Gold Coast in Gold Coast after, but it's these first quarters that are costing them. As simple as that. And then, obviously, they just played a better team in Adelaide last week. Very well could have won it, but, fell just short. So, this will be Melbourne's winnable game. And again, they win this, and if they won it by enough, Carlton lose by enough, they could actually push Carlton down to 14th, which is ridiculous. And it's kind of crazy, and I do think the D's will get the job done here. They're a class team. They should be, better than 5 wins, 11 losses, certainly. So, 5 straight losses is really bad. I mean, it's a worse record than, obviously, what North Melbourne's holding, but I do think Melbourne will be the better side this time round. At the MCG, I know North Melbourne are undefeated there this season, but it does not mean all too much. But if somehow North win this game, they'll actually go up to 14th. and push St Kilda down to 16th and Melbourne down to the bottom 4. But I am going to go Melbourne. I do think they win, and I think they'll win it by 32 points relatively comfortably. Yeah, that's about it. Again, a game that does not really mean a lot. Another dead game at St Kilda and Sydney. Sydney, again, they need to win every single game if they even want to be a mathematical chance at making finals, and even then it's a massive stretch. We have 7 games left, or 8. They win every single one. 7 games. They'll have 14 wins. And judging by how far they are on percentage already, it's still very bloody unlikely. I mean, you've got the next team in the top 8 with 112% to Sydney's 93%. They've already 19% clear. And then obviously, 14 wins will not get you in, I promise you. It just won't. Well, not with Sydney's percentage at least. It'll be 14 wins and a really good percentage. That will get you into the 8. It might even stretch 15, but St Kilda are no chance. Again, they've won 2 of their last 12. They've been battered in just about every single game. They have been more competitive in recent weeks, obviously against the Hawks, Fremantle and Collingwood. But Sydney, all their players back, they're class, they're keeping their season alive. They've won 3 of their last 4. Obviously, they had the poor loss. Well, it wasn't really a poor loss. It was just a loss to a better team, and the Bulldogs, who showed up better that day. And again, it's the forward structure problem. Obviously, Amadi's out for the season. I don't think that will bother them too much. I know he's a big impact forward, but his accuracy is god-shocking. So, they've won 3 of their last 4, but now they've got to just win, win, and win. They cannot lose. They drop a game, they're out. As simple as that for Sydney. It would be a hell of a challenge, but if anyone's to do it, it's them. And I'm going to go Sydney by 38 points. I think they'll win relatively comfortably as well. And again, the game does not mean too much because they're already 3 games, behind. Last game of the round, and it's the biggest guarantee of the round. Port Adelaide take on West Coast. Powell Pepper's season is over, which is very sad to hear and see. ACL injuries, man, what can I tell you? Port Adelaide, you'd just about think they're done as well. They're in a worse position than Sydney. Again, they'd have to win, every single one of their games to even be a chance, but with an 87.6 percentage, I just don't think it's possible. I guess this could be a game that could help with that, but they've got to win every game from here. It simply just won't happen. And the Port Adelaide fans can apologise to me for when I said they wouldn't make finals, and they all were like, well, you're just mad about the semi-final last year. How are they going to go from 2nd to 10th? Well, they've gone from 2nd to currently 11th, so I don't know, how have they done that? The exact same way I told you it would happen. But yeah, Port Adelaide will smack the shit out of West Coast here. I'm going to go Port Adelaide by 67 points. West Coast just aren't very good, are they? They can show that they can be competitive. And I don't think Port Adelaide will fully bully them to a point where they will push 100 points. But yeah, I'm going to go, I nearly said West Coast. I'm going to go Port Adelaide. Their season's already done, but if they want a glimmer, they're going to have to win. They're going to have to win big. And again, they've got to win every single game, which, I'm sorry, I don't see happening. As much as I hate Port Adelaide or just, other teams, I always put my bias aside while tipping and try to look at a realistic stance of point. Like, if Hawthorn were in Port Adelaide's position, I'd be saying the same thing, that our season is definitely over and that there's really no chance of winning every single game. Now, sure, there's a chance, but you've got to do that and then gain the percentage. Because if you win every game by a point, you're still not going to get in. But yeah, Port Adelaide will easily win. And to recap, I've got Brisbane beating the Blues. I've got Collingwood beating the Suns in Gold Coast. I've got Bulldogs beating Adelaide. Geelong away from home at Angie Stadium, knock off the Giants. Essendon against Richmond. Fremantle knock off the Hawks to keep their finals chances alive and put more pressure on losing GWS side. Melbourne get their revenge against North from earlier in the season as they push above. They could push above Carlton, but they push higher into the ladder. They'll at least go to 13th, pushing. Actually, no, the way I've tipped, technically not, because Essendon are also winning. But both teams are putting pressure on Carlton and making them nervous. That's the point. Sydney will knock off the Saints, and then Port Adelaide are your most guarantee for the round. They will have the biggest win. I can nearly guarantee you that. But yeah, for my 3 guarantees, I'm going to go Brisbane. I'm going to go Sydney and Port. I'm going to play it relatively safe with the 3 guarantees. But yeah, those are my round 18 tips. Up the Hawks.